Welcome to the Orgasmic Enlightenment Podcast, where the sexual and spiritual come together. I'm Kim Anami, and you are listening to the audio version of one of my bi-weekly YouTube videos. You can listen to it here or head over to my YouTube channel to watch the original with all of the sensual and sublime visuals. Gourmet sex. I often talk about how your intimate relationship is either feeding you or draining you. That, more than any other part of your life, has the power to uplift, or it sucks all of the life out of you. Just like food. You can eat food that's nourishing and energizing and builds a better mind and body, or you can eat food that provides a quick, addictive high and then you crash. You feel tired and groggy and irritable. You reach for it even though you know that it ultimately doesn't make you feel very good. You reach for it because you don't know it's possible to feel so much different and so much better. The effects of eating like this over time lead to health problems galore. Gourmet sex is when you bring all of your deepest parts to the table, your heart and your genitals. Emotionally, you're open, your guard is down, you speak your truth, you let your most authentic self rise up to the surface. You let yourself be seen. This is deep, surrendered, letting go to the core type of sex. It's the kind of sex that changes who you are. It allows the most truthful part of who you are to come out. It's the kind of sex that makes you play better music, keynote with more confidence, be more loving and patient with your children. You wear the radiant glow of a well-fucked person. When I meet couples, I can tell whether or not they have a vital sex-love connection in their lives because I can read it in them when they're actually tapping into the potency and the fire of their sexual connection, or they're not. They're lively and vital and radiant and happy and easygoing, or they're contracted and they're bickering and they're fighting and they just have this very kind of hostile energy, even if it's subtle to them. So when they're harnessing this energy, they're letting the world see how well fucked they really are. They're in tune with each other, and the hum of their sexual connection is palpable and electric. If they've minimized their sexuality, then they're sapped of vitality and they're wilting like a dying plant. They may bicker a lot, or they've just neutralized any chemistry that's going on between them. They're antagonistic at worst, and they're good buddies at best, meaning we have such a good partnership. We really make a good partnership. Yeah, but they're not really having any sex. Even if people are having frequent sex, there's a difference between gourmet sex and junk food sex. One of the biggest things that I'm most passionate about in my work is teaching people why their sexual energy is so important to their relationships and their lives, and how to use it. You need two things for gourmet sex: emotional openness and sexual vulnerability. In other words, you need to be getting naked on both levels. A Durex study from 2013 found that a whopping 96% of men and women said that the top factor for great sex with them was being emotionally connected with someone. 92% of the 1,000 people surveyed also said that seeing their partners vulnerable was a turn-on. To define it, emotional openness is when you really let your guard down. You let somebody inside of you. You let them see your light and your dark, and you readily admit all of the fallacies of your human ways. Sometimes it's awkward, and we might have this bred instinct to paint a better looking picture of ourselves. Yet the truth is we're more attractive, more lovable, and more fuckable in our vulnerable states. I remember being about 20-something and coming off of a very drunken evening back in the days when I used to take such things, and I was sitting with my very new boyfriend at the time by the ocean, and I was pouring out my flaws and my struggles, which seemed really monumental to me. And we were far enough into the relationship that it was time to share these things, because not to would be dishonest and could create blocks. but not so far into it that I wasn't sure that he'd be scared off. And after letting it all out, I felt really cleansed, but I was also a little bit nervous because what was he gonna do? So I asked him what he was thinking. And he said two things that to this day remain some of the loveliest poetry that someone has ever uttered to me. One, he said, and he said it like that with numbers, "You are very strong." And two, "You'd be easy to love." So I just melted, and I loved him even more for seeing the deepest parts of me and accepting them. Sexual vulnerability has a few levels to it. There's an aspect of it which means really owning your sexual self, and that's not easy to do in this culture because everything is so vilified and made into taboo around sexuality, so you have to consciously work on it. We grow up denying and obscuring our sexuality. That's a challenge to get over that. You have to feel comfortable with your body. So you have to be willing to really expose yourself. You live in your own skin. You're not dissociating from sensations or body parts. You're really there. You have to be willing to let someone see just how deeply you desire them. So how hard your cock gets when you walk into the room, how wet your panties get from a telephone conversation. You need to let your body speak without censorship. You want someone to see how humbled you are by their beauty. And often this is the hardest thing of all to do, to show that your heart is so raw. Because when your heart is that raw, this is when your cock is the hardest and your pussy is the wettest. Even though I always talk about this stuff, the importance of honesty and vulnerability, I was pretty blown away to see the results of that study where in the high 90s, affirming that this is what people really want and crave. And when we're honest and really admit it, we all want the same thing, which is to love and be loved. And opening up to that love is what really leads to the hottest and the most gourmet sex. Coming together is coming. Check out my free video series with hot tips that you can practice tonight in and out of bed with your partner. The link for that is below this video. For more gourmet sex and orgasmic enlightenment, subscribe.